You guys ready? Call this work session to order, Wednesday, September 5th, 1 p.m. Open for visitor comments.
Good afternoon. My name is Agnes Peterson, and I just read your papers and it says I don't have to give my address. Right. I'm here to furnish you information of your own laws of the city of St. Helens. And before I did that, I called your lawyer and asked him for permission to present this to you. And he called me back, and since it's an unrelated matter to other matters you know about, he gave me permission. Sure. Thank you. The first page is a cover sheet of the facts that I said to your lawyer. And Mr. Dolan is your lawyer. The main lawyer in the office that does your work is Mr. Ramus. And the way I've been watching the city going, I suggest in the future you use the services of your lawyer and have your lawyer present once in a while so you can get some advice about the law and your own laws. The next pieces of information are the notice of public hearing on the matter of the pot shop down on the corner where the Spooks Parade starts every year. And the next one is a notice of a continued deliberation on the same issue. That is illegal, in my opinion, based upon your own ordinance. The next page, one of one, is from Chapter 1724, Procedures for Decision Making in Quasi-Judicial Matters. The appeal of an original decision made by the Planning Commission to the City Council shall be de novo and conducted as set forth in other laws. I suggest you read this if you haven't read it before, and that's why I furnished it to you. And your lawyer asked me to please furnish copies of it so he didn't have to go through all your books and look it up. So I did that. The next pages, 1 through 10, are your ordinances on how you conduct city council meetings after an appeal of a planning commission meeting. And on page 6 of 10, which we've marked for you so you can find them easily, it says, in the event of a tie, the decision which is subject of the appeal or review shall stand, which means that what the Planning Commission did stands, and where you have a 2-2 vote, it's over, boys and girls, unless someone has moved for a continuance, and there's a section in your ordinance. Your ordinance is very complete. Whoever put this together, put a very complete ordinance of what happens. The applicant in that case did not ask for a continuance. Nobody else asked for a continuance, and at the conclusion of the hearing, it was over with. Now, I don't know how, and you might ought to think about this, how did it come up after it's over to have, quote, a notice of a continued deliberations, and why?
It wasn't over. I said I wanted to get legal advice, that we'd leave it open and we'd let both parties know.
Is that on the record?
That is on the record.
You'd let both parties know.
That's right.
So you say that at the conclusion of this hearing, you said you were
In our deliberations.
Well, I've said what I, and you say you got legal advice on this subject?
I said so we could get legal advice, whether
did you get legal advice?
we did get legal advice.
Okay. Well, I've said what I have to say, but it's a very interesting turn of events. Thank you for all your attention, and I'll be seeing you on a regular basis.
Thank you. Any other visitor comments? hold on, Ed. We're gonna let the kids come up.
I'm not here for chamber business. I'm actually here on behalf of St. Helens High School, the girls soccer program, and these guys, I will let them introduce themselves, and they have some gifts for you guys.
Hi, I'm Mackenzie Carlson. I'm a junior at St. Helens High School, and I'm one of the captains for soccer.
My name's Kayla Lee. I'm a senior and I'm one of the captains.
Hello, I'm Kennedy Brown, and I'm one of the seniors this year, and I'm also one of the captains.
So we wanted to have you guys be full in support of our program. We provided fanware for our biggest supporters here. It's we have T-shirts for each of you and a couple other of you as well. So I'm gonna let these guys give these out, and we have posters with our schedule on it as well. Our first home game is tomorrow.
Nice.
So here you go, guys.
All right, thank you.
Find them. You don't have to wear them now.
But we do need to wear them to the game tomorrow.
Yes.
Absolutely. Wear them at game time tomorrow. These work for all sports if you want to go to a different one too. That's okay.
And Mackenzie is from our former youth council, so
Thank you very much.
Oh, and then posters to everybody on the benches. And we do have extra T-shirts. We just wanted to get everybody covered first. I think that was what we had.
Thank you, girls.
Do you have another schedule?
Yes, we do, right there.
Thanks. Yes. Thank you.
All right, ladies.
Good luck this
Well,
thank you.
yes.
Good luck.
Yep. Okay, other visitor comments?
Gosh dang, I haven't consulted an attorney, and I don't have a legal handout for you, and I don't have T-shirts, but I'll see what I can do. My name is Ed Oxiger. I just moved to your community back in July. I'm here because I feel you are remiss in addressing handicap parking issues. I have, it's just, I don't feel you are compliant. And let me share a couple thoughts with you. I purchased my car locally. I asked the person I bought it from him and his wife to come down that Thursday night for your riverfront activity. And he said, I can't. We are handicapped and we can't even get within blocks. We have lived here all of our life and we've never been there because we can't have access. I also have I live at 30 Cowlett Street. Right next to me is that restaurant, so my apartment always smells good. But there's somebody else in that apartment complex, number 8. Her father is disabled, and she pushes him around in a wheelchair. He can't come down here except on very limited times because he can't get parking. Also, I was out last 3 Sundays ago, and there was somebody with visitor plates that had driven around the block 5 times, really slow. So I asked them what was going on, and they said, we cannot find parking down here, handicap parking. And they wanted to go over here to the park area. So I actually walked over to the park, and you have 4 spots over there. 3 of them were taken by people who were illegally parked. But besides all of that, let me give you a couple examples where I think you are remiss. Also, when you have activities and you block off some of those handicap spots, you don't provide any other parking. When I went to the county fair, they had the whole front row for handicap parking. They made accommodations for those people. Also, as I walked around town, your Columbia Theater does not have handicap parking. I did see 2 handicap parking spaces in a private parking lot across the street. But last night when I walked the city, those 2 handicap spots were not taken, but 2 people with handicap stickers were parked in front of the theater. As I looked at it, I thought those 2 handicap spots were really not usable because A, I would have to cross the street, and then I would have to walk 50 feet down there to get a crosswalk. So having those two spots there, even close to the theater, were not useful or practical. The Cozy Cafe is over there, and they have one handicap spot, but if I want to go to the restaurant, the handicap spot is at the very end down by the bar. So I'm actually better off not using it, even though I'm disabled. Then I walked by a building called the Old School. I realize not too many people use that place, but it's a public place and there is no handicap parking in front of it. I have no idea what's on the side, but there's nothing in front of it, and if I'm going into that building, I'm gonna park in the front. And then, of course, the cafe that's right next door to me does not have any handicap parking. I've spoken with people that say they would like to come down here on many occasions, but they're disabled and the parking accommodations in this area are not compatible with their needs. You may not be aware of this, and we talk about the growth of populations, Generation Z or Q or whatever you want, but your actual fastest growing population is disabled people. And that population of those people, 87% of them qualify for handicap parking. And that population is not just aged like myself. You have many people that are disabled due to work that are in their 30s and 40s that need this access. And then something you may not be aware of, hospitals issue temporary permits. I'm running out of time. For me personally, this is not solved by a pound of the gavel and a vote. This is long-term, but by the same token, I ask for a temporary solution for me. I'm requesting, as I did in Colorado, extra parking for handicap in front of my apartment. I would like 2 spots. I will tell you that I would use one of them and save them for somebody else or make other accommodations for me. Also, I would like to hear back from you on your plan. I'm here to work with you to solve this dilemma, and I know I speak for many people. Thank you. And if you want my contact information, who should I give it to?
Sure, you can bring it up here, Ed. That was perfect timing, too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep,
Thank you.
we'll be in contact, Ed.
Just real quick, I saw a couple hats. I saw an Oregon State one. I am a graduate of Stanford, but I will not hold your hat. Remember, that hat doesn't ride with me very well this Sunday either.
Thank you, Ed.
Thank you all.
Other visitor comments? Okay, opposition to proposed barricade at Milton Way and Columbia Boulevard. Brian Gardner.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yep.
Got handouts too. And I'm kind of still learning more stuff every day about this proposal. And what I'm really here about is maybe, since it is just that, a proposal, there can be some changes made. I just want to continue to be able to drive south on Milton Way, selfish reasons. I live down in that area. There's some maps that kind of shows that Milton Way at one time was straight. You have to share. I only got 5 copies.
We can share.
And I did a little
Thank
bit
you.
of homework. You guys have to share. Sorry. Okay.
What do you want, the picture?
And I am nervous about being here, I will say that. So I made myself an outline. Would you like me to sit down?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So, okay, I realize that this is a proposal, the page 1, this map right here.
Issue in front of the chamber.
And it redirects, it's, from reading on the side, what I think this proposal, the main reason for it is that people are turning the wrong way onto Columbia Boulevard. I think a no right turn sign would be a great idea instead of a giant barricade out in the street. The other thing is, Milton Way is one of the accesses to the industrial area. And there's container trucks that turn there all the time. They're not going to be able to turn there anymore. Let's see, I've got to collect myself and find out where I'm at because I am nervous. No, let's see. The city council has addressed this before. I talked with Chris Iverson, a past council member, and he said that they decided the best thing that they could do was nothing. I don't know that has ever been a head-on crash there. I went and talked to the chief of police, our new chief, and I had some suggestions. A lot of people don't realize it. The speed limit from Highway 30 to 18th Street on Columbia Boulevard is 20 miles an hour. People are going way faster. They're coming off the highway, lickety-split, and it's giving the perception, well, it is making it more dangerous, but that's one thing they could address, and people, the word spreads fast. If you're going to get a ticket right there when you come 30 miles an hour off of Highway 30, then people will say, hey, you're going to get tickets. So I'm trying to make suggestions to ease the situation there. If you look at the very back page, I printed a picture from Google Earth, and it shows the chamber there, and it shows where the stop sign is. I got a little dot there where the stop sign is, and actually the chamber parking, those two spots are actually right in front of the stop sign. I put in some little black lines there. If they realigned those parking spots, you wouldn't have to go out around the chamber vehicles that are parked there. You could just shoot straight across. As far as people saying that this intersection is not 90 degrees, all of Sandy Boulevard and all of Burnside, all the way out to Gresham, has intersections that are not 90 degrees. And Portlanders are smart enough to manage it. I think people in St. Helens will be able to deal with it. Let's see. The school buses don't turn there anymore because school bus hit one of the railroad cars parked in that little gravel area. So that's not an issue. But I did talk to the police, and I didn't get a response from the chief. He's really busy because he's brand new. But he was going to talk to his people about wanting to have access running south on Milton Way as well. And he was going to talk to the sheriff's department for me. Michael Emmert, I talked to him. He said this is going to be a really negative impact on his business. He owns Emmert Motors. He said his lot, which is across the street, he would not be able to access the vehicles that he sells to go down to get the prep in the shop without going through this residential neighborhood. And he said he estimated 25 to 50 cars going through those back streets, not to mention tow trucks with people that have vehicles that are disabled that are going to go to his shop.
And those back streets are very, very narrow.
They are narrow.
21st, 22nd, and Du Bois are really narrow.
So I guess I'm asking the planner, whoever it is that drew these or will do the finalization, I'm saying maybe we can come up with something else that's not quite so restrictive. There's one other thing that you guys might want to look at. I did a title search on the piece of property, and you'll see on there's a map I have that's this one. It's got a highlighted triangle. Okay, that piece of property was sold to the city for $1 by the Graham family, and the descendants are the Jordans. And if you've lived here at any time, you know that Jordan Motors is Emmert now. And this is the document, the deed that they sold to the city. And there's some parts that are underlined by the people at Tycor Title. And they said this still stands, that if it's for road right-of-way only, and let's see, the exact word is, any departure from the understanding that it would be for road right-of-way only would null and void the sale, and sold premises would revert back to the grantors. So the city building that picnic area in there actually has kind of violated this deed, and they could lose the entire Milton Way from St. Helens Street to Columbia Boulevard to the family. That just happened with the Holbrook Grade School. The city of Portland bought that for a small amount of money with the understanding it would be for, you didn't. Oh, I don't have a 5-minute limit. Great. But they bought it with the understanding it would be for education purposes only, and then they put the Native American rehabilitation in there, and after they decided that they didn't want to mess with it anymore, they put it up for sale. The family did, in fact, take the property back, and they just sold it for $1.5 million. I don't know if the family, how much they would charge the city of St. Helens for Milton Way in between there, but one of those things that you might want to look at. Other than that, I really wanted to try to keep a very positive attitude. Whoever it is that's going to make the decisions on what happens with this intersection, if you could take into consideration some of the points that I made and try to make things flow a little better. And thank you for your time.
Talk to Jacob.
I think that's everything.
Thank you, Brian.
Okay.
Appreciate the heads up. Okay. Spirit of Halloween Town activities update. Tina Curry.
Tina Curry, consultant for events. I just wanted to start off by giving a little bit of an update on the vendor and merchant meetings. The people are really excited about the new signs that are going to be going through town, and the fact that we got the grant because of our genius, Jenny. And so they're really excited about that and super stoked that we're going to be able to move forward with that whole program of wayfinding through town. And then I also wanted to thank Cascadia Home Loans for sponsoring this map for us. And the map is now completed. And it's already outdated, but we didn't do big runs. So we're going to be able to keep it up to date and have it as a resource during Halloween Town, along with the haunted maps that we have. And the people that are manning the information booth will have those to hand out, as well as at the chamber building. So the we'll get back to Halloween, but I just wanted to follow up on the question that I had about Drake's Towing. If they are a legitimate business in St. Helens, and he is wondering how he can become the official towing company for the city as Grumpy's is in Scappoose. So I'm wondering how I can possibly get back to him with an answer, because it just seems to be dragging on and on and on. And I see him and he goes, "What's going on? Anything? Any news?" And I'm like, "We're working on it. I don't know yet."
Again, are there other towing companies within
There
the
is
city?
not. No.
I don't quite see why we're not doing that. He should be at least the first one to call.
Yeah, I thought that we had made the decision to go forward that way. I thought it was like, yes, we're gonna do that unless staff can find a reason why we can't.
Okay.
So if we haven't, I think we should.
If it's allowed, we make sure it's okay to do it, that I.
Well, it's your guys' call. I mean, it's
Well,
a decision you have to make.
Following our own rules.
I know it does cost our citizens in
More
this
money.
area $65
Yeah.
more
Yeah.
to have Grumpy's come out and tow him, because he takes them to Scappoose. So it would save our citizens $65 right off the top.
And benefit a local business.
Yes.
Well, and he works with people, which is what I like. If he knows that they're falling on hard times and they're trying to get their lives together, he works out all kinds of things with them. So I think that's kind of cool, to empower people to do better.
So my
Anybody know a reason why we shouldn't?
my memory is slipping these days, but anyway, I thought at the time when we made this decision to go with different ones, they all had to have competitive bids, and there wasn't going to be any more charges than the others. I thought at the time. I'd have to go back and look at that, but
Well, he's
anyway.
less, so
If he is indeed less, then I don't have an issue with
okay.
going with him. So
I believe the last time we spoke, if I can remember, I threw out the option of going out for an RFP. Is the proper way to go through and have an exclusive use for this towing company or anybody else who wants to apply to be an exclusive provider for the city of St. Helens. So we can work up a RFP that.
Do you need a motion on that, or can you?
That can just be directed to staff to come back.
I was just going to comment that I don't know if the council all knows, but he's technically not in the city limits.
He's according to
closer
the
than
police, he
Scapa
is.
He's in the urban growth boundary, but he's not.
According to the, I researched this, and according to the records and documents, he is inside the city limits. His business is inside the city
He's
limits.
within the
His
urban growth-
towing
he's in the
company
urban growth boundary.
is outside, but
It's
his
Columbia.
business office
It's
is.
county property out there. We got a weird layout of the city. We really do.
Well, he's in this. His business is being run out of not where he tows from. It's a different location inside the city limits, and that's where the police and the sheriff's department have him on record as being his place of business. It's not the tow yard.
Okay.
That's what I found out. But I can double, triple, quadruple check it because it's been like I've been working on this.
Regardless, the
for a while.
RFP
Yes.
is the way
Yeah.
to go about doing this. So yeah.
I
So
would
yes,
like to
Matt.
see us move forward.
So yes, Matt.
So I can work with any staff that helps me and bring back an RFP for you to approve probably at the next meeting.
Okay.
Sounds good. Okay, on to Halloween Town.
Okay. Well, before Halloween Town, I just want to give you a quick update on 13 Nights. And right now, I think we're this close to being in the black, if not in the black this year, for the first time in how many ever years? It's been probably 3. But we do have to take into consideration that we had a much larger variety of music this year. And in fact, we had people come down on Saturday and to the last one and say, we didn't even come to 13 Nights and we've come to the last 3, and we really appreciate that the music is different and it's not just all cover bands. And there was a number of people that specifically came up. I told them to call you guys and tell them you were happy, so that we could continue that possibly. The only thing that we had to pay for that was kind of unexpected this year was we had to go through 100% of all the equipment because a lot of it was not in working order. And so now everything is working except one speaker, and we'll fix that for next year. And we have a follow-up meeting for vendors next week to get feedback from them. One of the recommendations I had from Doug Morton, we'll take on some new meaning. Next year, we're going to have dancers come out for different nonprofits and win a donation for their cause. So that will start people dancing, and you can come and vote for your charity. And it will bring a whole, I think, new little bit of interest and energy to the dance floor.
So will this be like the marathon dancing where they?
Well, or
sign
we'll
on
just
their
have
back
us.
so they could identify the people.
Well,
We'll have to work out the
I'm
details.
thinking Doug's starting dancing with the council.
Oh, without a doubt.
Yeah, for sure.
Start it up.
And then also, we're planning on having activities for teens in the courthouse plaza, and possibly working with the rec department to do that. So I'll get back to you after I've gotten everything together for 13 Nights for recommendations after we have our vendor meeting next week. Halloween is coming along. We have a lot on the ever-changing plate, and we just confirmed today for positively sure that the museum location will be at the Chamber Building. They possibly had a renter that was interested. And our nonprofits that we're currently working with are pretty much everybody that's raising money for various activities, CERD and Kiwanis and Rotary, the school board. We're working with the Opus dance team, and we have a lot of vendors in the food area that we haven't had before, so we're trying to make up for the Klondike closure for having food available for people that come down. Stephanie is no longer the liaison with Shedco, but she has been busy organizing the vendor area and getting the coin challenge in place as well. Neil's team is up to their ears, and so we're working around that schedule and updating the Halloween timeline to match where we think we're going to be with the help that we get from Public Works, which is paid. The Festival of the Fairies passes are our number one seller by a landslide, and we have new props that are coming that are going to be really cool. We are getting those made through Byron Oler, who works for Michael Curry, so we're excited to see how those are going to come in. And we have Zork balls, which are the balls that you saw maybe on Jimmy Kimmel, where you jump inside them and then you roll around like a hamster ball. We have Tinkerbell and character actors from Game of Thrones and Maleficent that are going to be there. And then on the 20th, we have 2 major characters from Grimm that will be there for a meet and greet and photo ops at the Stones on the Waterfront, which were part of the television show. The new this season also is that the Stones are going to talk and read a story when you push a button on them. And there'll be 4 different stories that you can go and listen to that will be professionally read, and their original stories. We're spreading out the celebrity involvement this year so that we can hopefully have as many people, if not more people, coming, but over a more than just one weekend where we have an uncontrollable crowd that we find difficult to, accommodate. So we have the most of the cast from Halloween Town will be here on the 13th, including the mom, Calabar, Sophie, the pincushion lady, Harriet, and Dylan. And they will be doing the ceremony and have various VIPs and meet and greets that are available. But the pumpkin lighting is, of course, free. And then on the last weekend of the month, we decided to try a interesting concept with a wedding ceremonies done by Calabar. So Calabar is coming back for that weekend. And we currently have 7 couples that are signed up to get married, and they're bringing all of their friends. So we're looking forward to that, and we'll be doing a lot of press activity around that, and also locally with the Grimm guys, since there's a lot of people locally that love that television show, and we'll come out for that. Grimm is the 20th. Then, do you have any questions about Halloween? I mean, I don't want to read the whole agenda to you because it's just crazy.
It's pretty laid out. If people go to Columbia County.
Yeah, discovercolumbiacounty.com.
discovercolumbiacounty.com.
Yeah.
They'll be able to see it.
Yeah. And of course,
I would like one of those maps before you go.
Okay.
Yes.
And then the Spirit of Halloween Town directs everybody to Discover Columbia County. So we're getting people going to that site. We've had 348,000 people visit it at the last count that I looked at last night. For Uptown Merchants, we're planning on doing, of course, the museum, which is going to be in the Chamber Building. And then we're also using the shuttle to take people during weekdays and weekends nonstop pretty much during the day so that they can do the coin challenge and visit the shops in the marketplace along the way. And we also have added this year, in addition to the Alien Adventure, where they'll take the ride, but then they get to go into the crash site hut where they'll see a video, which is really cool. And then when they get out of the video area, they'll get to take their pictures with aliens and smoke and so forth. And it's kind of based around the story that we have here in St. Helens of the aliens that visited us. The other thing that we have going on is a huge outreach through national media. We were on Grimm International yesterday. So we're starting to reach out through our press contacts and invite people. We're going to have, I'm pretty sure, a couple of local television shows are coming to broadcast the wedding ceremony. And we just have a lot. We have a lot on our plate. We have a lot going on, and people are bolting on their activities as they come up. And we've rearranged schedules to accommodate people and done as much as we can. So, does anyone have any questions?
Just a comment back on 13 Nights Again. I just want
Yeah.
to say how happy I am that the public is happy with the changes in the music.
Well, not everybody is, of course, but I mean,
Never
it's
everybody.
like changing it up a little bit, I think was really positive this year. And I think engaging teenagers is like a key component for next year, because there's so many teenagers down here that, you know, they're hanging out, but it would be better if they were hanging out and doing something that was
But they like hanging out and talking to their friends. I've talked to some of their parents.
Yeah, they do. They
You
do.
know, What would it take to maybe incorporate one of the nights into a teenager night? I don't know.
Well, what's that look like?
With no alcohol, but you open up a dance floor and you probably do DJ style music because it covers their. More
Well,
music.
I think if we do that, we should do it in an area designed for them, because they're not going to, it's going to be really hard to tell regular visitors of 13 nights. Yeah, 'cause it's too visible.
Over here.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So let's think about something like that.
Yeah.
The youth council does something, but let's think about something for that we could do for.
Well, I'd like to do it every week, because there's so many teenagers down here that if we can figure out something for them to get entertained by, I think that it's a positive experience for them.
What about
And
bringing back the
the
disc jockey
parents.
karaoke guy?
Yeah, maybe. So I'm talking to Rex, so we'll see what we can come up with and get back with that.
Good.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Tina. Okay. Fourth quarter financial report, Matt. Thank you. Yeah, but you can't. You can't burn them up.
So that goes through basically the last fiscal year. And I'll go through some quick highlights over here. I'm not going to spend a lot of time, but feel free to interject if there's any specific questions over anything that I go over. The general fund is the second page that you will see. Revenues are shown in the red. I'm sorry, year to date is shown in the red, and the budgeted numbers are shown in the blue. The little yellow dot that you see is the beginning fund balance. So that's what we start the year out with. So in the general fund, revenues came in higher than expected, and expenses were just a little bit under what we expected. So that is always a good thing. The graph below that breaks down that revenue line into each specific category. So you see property taxes, charges for services, licenses and fees, and all the other revenues. So that gives you a breakdown of per category of where we are at this last fiscal year. But everything is all good news, nothing bad. If we jump to the next couple pages, that is where I break down each department between what was budgeted and what was spent for each department. There were only a couple departments that went over by 1 or 2%. The police department and administration, mainly due to professional services, so attorney fees and those kind of items that went a little bit above what we had initially budgeted. The closest without going over is, of course, the library, because I don't count myself, because that's a little mean if I count myself in that category, since I have access to more reports than most departments. So the library is the winner for, I think, at least the 2 or 3 years that I've been doing these reports for you. If we jump down to page 5, we're going to jump into the special revenue funds. So that is the visitor tourism, community development, community enhancement, and the street funds. All of those funds were right in line, mostly with their revenues, and expenses were under budget. So everything is good in those 4 funds. We'll jump down to page 6, which is the enterprise funds. Those are the water, sewer, and storm funds. You'll see that the revenues came in right either on the market or just a little bit above what we anticipated, and expenses were below what was budgeted. So well done in the enterprise funds as well there. The next page goes to the internal service funds. These are the equipment funds, IT fund, public works operations, and facility major maintenance. Because they're internal funds, they should be 99 or 100% on revenue every year. And then the expenses all came in under what was budgeted. So doing very well there. Page 8 is the SDC funds. So that would be the water, sewer, storm, street, and parks SDC. That is based mainly on development and system development charges that the city receives. The revenue came in as expected of what we budgeted for. We did not have really any real expenses in system development charges this past year because of projects. Most of the expenses that you see that are listed there are actually internal transfers of administration fees that we charge. Each SDC has a small portion that is admin fees. Those funds get transferred back into the general fund. So that is mainly what you see as far as expenses on the SDCs. The last page I wanted to show you at, I apologize, I'm going to have you ignore the top one because that is an incorrect graph. But the second one is the single-family residence permits issued, showing the last fiscal year and the previous 3 fiscal years. In April, May, and June, we put in or issued 2 single-family resident permits. So overall, on a fiscal year basis, it's actually this past year has been the lowest in the last 4 years for single-family residence permits issued. So hopefully that will change in the future. We have larger developments that are obviously in the planning stages and currently being built, so hopefully that number grows in 18-19. That's how we get system development charges. That's how we do improvements to some of the areas and projects that we have scheduled on the books. That's
but realistically, the January, March, they take a year to build. So we're
depending on the
year
builder.
and a half. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, depending on the builder.
Yep. From what I've garnered in the last couple of years, it seems that a lot of developers around here like to do a couple at a time each year, or as they build as they sell, and they don't build a new 2 until they sell the current 2, and so it's a smaller business and a company as opposed to someone like D.R. Horton or Polygon that build 10, 15 at a time.
I just got to tell you, I'm pretty impressed with how tight this budget really is. I mean, when people, we have a big project come up and we're like sitting up here debating how to get the money for it. It's because through budget committee and Matt, it's really that tight. I mean, it's that tight of a window right there. There's not a lot of money left, and it all goes to something that is needed. So
we have a lot of projects coming up, and we still have a lot of projects on the books that are not funded.
Yes.
So it's a laundry list of public works
Wish
projects
list. A
and
big
street
long
projects
list.
and
Yes.
everything that make up,
Sue just said a huge list.
The street projects list, if you were to include everything in that TSP plan, it's about $60 million. So obviously we don't have $60 million, so.
But we're always looking for funding if somebody wants to
It's
donate.
true. We will most likely not turn down money. So, were there any other financial questions that I can answer? Okay.
Okay. We're going to go to municipal court now, Matt?
Correct.
Okay.
Let's see. I think I know Amy is on her way. She is traveling from West Lynn right now. She expected to be here about 2:15. So I did invite her and our new city prosecutor, Sam, to come in and talk briefly with you, give you an idea of what they're doing so far, the changes that they've made, and give you the opportunity to ask any questions of them. So they should be here shortly.
Let's see if they make it here, and you can just jump to the next agenda item, and we'll come back to
I
that.
can. I'm happy to go through the court report, mainly because the court report goes through last fiscal year, which is not when Amy or Sam were here.
Okay.
You have 2 things. You also have the youth thing. It's
Correct.
Yep.
Correct.
Yep.
So I'm happy to go through the court report.
Yeah, let's go ahead.
Okay.
It really is not related to them, so.
So on the first page is kind of the basic summary of revenue and expenses. The green bar shows the last fiscal year, the orange bar is the year before, and then the gray bar is a couple years before. So you have revenue on the left side and expenses on the right, and then a summary table at the bottom showing the net effect of specifically revenue and expenses. As you can see from the fiscal year 17-18, we made a huge improvement in the net of the department. We made a lot of changes even in with the staff that we had last year, and you'll see some of those stats have changed over this last fiscal year as well on another graph that we'll get. So more opportunities still to come, I would say. The negative $21,000, which is great compared to the last several years.
Yes, it is.
Please do not expect that this year.
Yeah.
Main reason is we have a new judge, a new prosecutor, new staffing that's going to really look at the efficiencies and the effective operations of the court. So that number is going to fluctuate a little bit as they kind of get into the groove, they figure things out. And also the court study that we had talked about doing for the court department to have the state courts come in and kind of officially do a review. That is still set to be scheduled. I anticipate that going on probably January, February timeframe of 2019. So we're going to give Sam and Amy time to come in, make the changes that they see, and then have the state court consultants come in and do a review and give us any ideas and options of what we can do better.
I look forward to seeing that report. I think what we want overall is an effective, efficient court that serves people.
Correct. And I think if when Amy and Sam come here and chat, and I'm sure Brian can speak to some of the changes that he's seen already just in some of the police officer involvement that we've had in the courts department, as far as how we process things and how we go through the court process. We've definitely seen some positive feedback from the community members as well as the police officers to how we're doing things differently.
I had a question about courts. Something I didn't know, and maybe it doesn't make sense to anybody but me. We've taken a lot of effort to do the CIT training for all of our police personnel, and I was wondering why court personnel were left out of that loop.
Because it was directed at law enforcement. We have now that we
finish my statement. The problem they have is they've had 3 people in the last 2 months give statements to me about ways that they were treated like less than a person in our building, and it was all by staff in this building. So I think that we need to address how people treat people with mental health challenges.
And we just received an extension on the grant in which we're going to address some of the other areas of need, and so it sounds like that should be one of them.
Maybe there's a part of the training that is appropriate for people that deal with people with mental health challenges. But I think there's definitely, based on the statement said to me, there's a learning curve, and I think that the police are going above and beyond, and we just make sure that people get that level of acceptance and that level of support throughout all their dealings with city employees.
That's a different level of support, and I think it's necessary too.
Yeah,
I think there are a lot of smaller groups in the schools.
The police is doing such a good thing. It would be a shame for the police to do all that they can and have the ball get dropped in the courtroom.
Counselor, I can speak to that. Is that we did get an extension on Brianne Mars, and the police department, every employed police department has a 60-day time limit to go down and meet the new prosecutor, new judge. And it was just mentioned, those are the relationships that we need to build, that personal connections to make the courts more efficient.
Right.
That Matt had spoke of, just one of the directions that we're going, and we can have Brianne go down there and see what's feasible for her to maybe extend that training to the court system if that's an issue, to the employees of the courts, because they do deal with the same people that the police deal with, and maybe they need that tool in their tool bag as well.
Right.
So I'll follow up on that, ma'am.
Chief Greenway, that's what I look forward to, is you guys are all new and you guys are going to figure this thing out, and I think it's heading in a good direction. And it may cost a little bit of more money to get it there, but I think money well spent.
It's about doing things the right way,
not
always the cheapest way.
Yes.
So.
Yep.
So other than that, Matt, I think maybe not next month, but the month after, we need to talk about that meeting with the judges all the judges and a few of the police and whatnot too and whatnot. Kind of get that going.
Yeah, we had talked about continuing kind of meeting quarterly, and Chief Greenway will be new to that. So I'm happy to set that meeting up and continue those conversations.
There'll be a bunch new of us at the LPSCC meeting on the 7th at noon. Brian, right? You're going to that as well at the jail?
Lipstick.
Yes, that is Friday. Yes.
Yes.
I have the invite. Yes, Ms. Morello.
Yes, and then our judge and our prosecutor and Julia Jackson, mental health. So it'll be a good thing. So, yep.
Continuing on to the second page of the report is kind of a breakdown of the actual charges that have been filed in our court system. You can see there was a pretty big uptick in the total numbers. Kathy, there you go. Scroll down just a little bit. There you go. So you can see the total cases filed went up to about 1,385 compared to about 1,100 in previous years. So there's definitely been an uptick in citations for non-traffic, traffics, ordinances, and that probably stems from increased enforcement from our police force. So just to give you an uptick or an idea of the kind of caseloads that our 2 FTEs in our court system are currently working with.
We have more positions filled, so I think that reflects on the statistics.
Correct, yep. More officers means more enforcement possibilities.
Well, and it's kind of a steady, gradual.
So, and I'm sure Chief Greenway can probably give more of a better in-depth of any changes or
rookies tend to write more citations.
True.
We have those.
Yep.
Well, you'll find there are some areas that we kind of target too that people come and say they've got a lot of speeders, and particularly on North Vernonia, the 290s over there. There's no reason to be doing 35 and a 25, and there's a lot of kids coming down off those neighborhoods out towards Pittsburgh on Vernonia that are walking those streets with no sidewalk access right now.
Correct, Mr. Mayor. Our goal is to make St. Helens the safest community in America, and it starts with the community adhering to the traffic laws. And that in the staff meetings I've had, and we have another one coming up, I'm very passionate about proactivity. And with the understanding of that, that's our goal, to make it the safest community in America, and I stand by that. And the officers understand that you don't have to issue a citation every time, but sometime it warrants talking to motorists or juveniles and maybe jaywalking or bicyclists, and it's a chance for two things. One is to educate individual on their driving habits or maybe the pedestrian roadway, and number two is to explain our goal and why we do this, because we don't want, I don't want the new police chief come in and pound a penny nail with a sledgehammer, so to speak. So there's an education piece to this, but at the same time, the only way to correct driving behavior is a fine, and that's a proven fact. So you're going to see in the next, as we go forward, the direction from the police department is, again, our goal is to make it the safest community in America, and that starts with our driving habits. My first week here, I was kind of taken back by what I witnessed in St. Helens. And I will tell you, as a resident of St. Helens myself, that's concerning as a citizen, is that, we may not be a victim of a crime, so to speak, but any one of us can leave this meeting and be a victim of a traffic accident by somebody, driver inattention. It doesn't even have to be speeding. And we just witnessed that last week with that bicyclist on Highway 30.
Yeah,
so,
yep.
But anyway, not to belabor this, Mr. Mayor, but yes, we're out, these officers are out there, they understand their role in the community, both education and enforcement and engineering when it comes to, if there's something they identify that we have to work with public works, signage or something, then we'll take that on as well, sir.
It was good to see an officer in the school zone yesterday morning. Yes.
So as far as caseload, from looking at this 17-18 year to last year, it's about a 17% increase in total cases. If you wind that calculation back to 12-13, it's about a 41% increase in cases that have been filed in the city of St. Helens. That kind of leads us to the next chart on the next page. Well, actually not that one. I'm going to skip to the next one. And that is the clearance rate. The clearance rate, which is that green line, basically is a calculation that shows how many cases came in versus how many got disposed of. So how fast are we going through things? How efficiently, how effectively are the court staff being able to process things through the system? In a perfect world, we would be at 100%. If we have any kind of backup or trails from behind, we're over 100%. As you can see, it's kind of dropped down to about 92%, which means that we're not being effectively closing cases as fast as they're coming in. They're coming in faster than we can get them disposed of. So that's going to change in a different ways, in a few different ways, mainly because of the new staff, how we're doing new things. But it will also change a little bit when we look at new software. The court department is very excited to get started on what we think is the software choice selection for the city, which involves the court department, and the opportunities that are available in that software to run more efficiently and more effectively, get paperwork processed quicker, and scanned electronically instead of keeping files and everything like that, will help improve the clearance rate. If you'll remember back in when we were talking about this upcoming budget, one of the topics on the list was a potential part-time FTE for the court staff to help with some of the tasks that are done over there, whether that be sort of the more mundane tasks of data entry or filing. I removed that position from the list of things to talk about just because I thought there were more prudent things going on in the general fund that the court staff could kind of limp around for a little bit longer before we really address this. But as we continue to make changes and look at those efficiencies, that may be something that I come back to you to look at, possibly looking at a temp or some kind of a small part-time employee to help with some of the more mundane tasks that aren't getting done and helping us getting disposed of files, whether that be just doing data entry into our system or filing and doing things like that. So I may come back to you in the next couple council meetings if I don't see an improvement in that area, and depending on what we talk about with the judge and the new prosecutor to see how we can better utilize them as well. That is all I had about the court department, if there aren't any other questions. Okay.
Okay, review new job description of youth program lead.
So in your packet is a new job description for a youth program lead person. We had spoken at the last meeting about starting a after-school program, and I believe it was Councilor Morton that mentioned to make sure that before we hired anybody, we wanted to make sure that we had registrations and people interested before we went out and hired somebody. As of yesterday, right now, we have about almost 20 students, kids that have expressed interest and registered with us on the city website to start an after-school program that would be held at Lewis and Clark Elementary. The facilities are provided by the school district for free, as well as transportation from McBride Elementary. Now, we're still working with the school district on an IGA for this program that will be coming to you shortly. It's kind of this ever-developing process of what we need to do and what things we need to cover and get started with. The program is set to start in October, so we're going to leave September with just a little bit too rushed to really do things the right way. So we pushed it off to a start date of October that we're looking at. That gives us the opportunity to actually post this position. This position is a part-time school calendar position, which means that is technically a seasonal position. And even if it is 25 or 30 hours, which meets an AFSCME union contract to be an AFSCME member, because it is considered a seasonal employee, it is not considered part of the union. Okay? So whoever accepts this job, whether that be one or maybe eventually two, depending on how many registrations we get and we grow, that position will be technically laid off at the end of the school year. So there may be an opportunity for that person to take on a rec assistant job if they want to continue employment, but we'll have to cross that bridge when we get there.
What are the laws for students per staff?
Technically right now it's 15 to 1.
So you need two.
Our after-school program would like to keep it to at least 10 to 1. We feel that's a little bit more of a manageable system, especially in our first year.
So are you going to need two? Or are you hoping that you only have 15?
Right now, we're looking at just one, and then also backfilling with rec assistants that are able to help. So the rec assistants that we've already hired, we can kind of fill those in when needed, or if there's more assistance needed during the day.
Assistant or volunteers capable of filling some of those
Volunteers
positions?
would definitely be capable of filling those needs as well.
At least one of them works with the school district or has worked at the school district.
Correct, yes. This employee, as well as any volunteer, would have to go through the background checks just as well for the school. You were still mentioning something, Doug?
I was going to ask, where's the funding stream and that revenue come from, and what's the basis of that, and how is it going to be sustainable? How?
Correct. So the break-even point for this after-school program is about 5.2 kids. So the cost of the facilities is for free. The cost of this position with taxes and insurance and or not insurance, but with PERS, because they will meet the requirement for PERS hours, and then snacks, foods, and any kind of side field trips that we may do that in our partnership with Eicher Schmidt Pool. We've talked about having kids that are of certain age or older having the option of going over to the pool for a day or so for that after school program. So those costs are included in that break-even point of 5.2 kids for me to break even every single month. So with 10 or almost 20 right now registrants, we're well over that mark. And Sean and I are working towards creating that sustainable programming, that funding source, really for the rec program to be counted on, as we can kind of take that revenue, and the school district is okay with providing the free facilities and letting us use the revenue for the rec program. So that hopefully will create a sustainable program, and hopefully we can continue to grow that. Like I said, Scott, at the superintendent, the school was willing to offer transportation from McBride Elementary. His perfect world is that we have an after-school program at every school. So as we grow into that, this hopefully sustainable model, we can basically copy and paste.
What a great idea, and I'm glad you're using that word sustainable, because that's the most important thing, that this keeps going and growing.
Yep.
As it moves forward.
Yep. So this job description would be, if approved tonight, would be posted tomorrow by Kathy, and in a couple weeks, hopefully go through interviews and go through that hiring process to have them start in October with the after-school program.
What I like about it the most is gives the kids a place to go, and they also can get help with their schoolwork and have crafts to do if they don't have school.
Correct. There'll be activities and crafts and homework time, and then not officially yet, but Scott was really trying to hope to get free meals as well. So we may even be able to offer
a snack.
Well, even a dinner option or so before they leave the after-school program. We're still working on funding for that through the school.
This is really filling a need for kids that's been absent. We haven't had anything to fill it in a number of years.
Matt, I would ask that you look into, I don't want to get into looking at grants, or, but I would ask that you look into a grant for especially those kids who can't afford, or parents can't afford.
We've had actually some interest from folks who work at the school who have access to opportunities that we can apply for those funding opportunities.
Okay.
So we're also looking at scholarship options for people that can't afford the after-school program, what opportunities that we can show them and that we can use for funding so that we can provide those services.
Good. All right, good work.
I have to ask Keith to elaborate on this proposal just a bit with your, in a contractual agreement with the growers that we have, and their agreement funding education, police, and parks. Does this kind of like start to dovetail with?
Well, I was going to talk to Matt somewhat about that. That there, years ago when we had a group looking for a teen center and whatnot, and looking at different types of grants. The main thing is we didn't have an address that's required by almost all grants and whatnot. The Gates Foundation has lots of money, but there's a lot more money out there for drug programs. There's lots of money if it involves drugs and whatnot, and that's what this education is supposed to be for, is about drugs and alcohol and whatnot. So that could possibly fit part of that, yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Good job, Matt. Okay, assignment of voting delegate and alternate for LOC conference.
I am.
I'll be going.
You're going?
My mom lives down there, so.
Oh, yeah.
It's in Eugene.
So who wants to be the primary for voting for on LOC board?
You going to all the,
I probably won't.
I'll be at all of them.
Is there a duck game that weekend?
No, there isn't. I already checked that out. I would nominate that Doug be our voting.
You okay with that, Doug?
I'm fine with that.
Okay, appreciate it.
Breakfast table, I can
Does it
raise
need a
that
motion?
paddle.
Do we need an alternate? Is anybody else going, or is?
Anyone else going?
I'm contemplating. I'm in the contemplation mode.
You know, one of the things that
I guess I could be the alternate, huh?
one of the things that I was
Means
looking
you have
at
to be up early and go to breakfast to vote.
Okay.
is there's an entire day with urban renewal, and I really got excited about doing that. So it's an in-depth program for urban renewal. Everything you wanted to know about urban renewal, how effective, efficient it can work and function. So
Yeah, because they're going through a big one, also for that Tracktown 2020, the U.S. competition. So they are on the move. I mean, they are trying to fast track. For government, it's going to be amazing to see if they make it, because they only started this not even a year ago. And it's going to be quite interesting to see how that comes to life.
So hopefully I'll have a good report back to the council and for people who can't go, but I'm excited about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does anybody need to be registered?
Yeah.
Is there any paperwork needs to follow up?
Yeah.
Administrative stuff. Okay.
As long as I get you information this week, that would be okay.
Okay.
I don't need it. You have to do it online.
Yeah.
You have to do it yourself, and you have to go, if you're going to stay at a hotel there, you have to go through the registration process to get to that point, to get to the hotel state.
I always just go to Portland, and so I've never had to stay. I've always gone with somebody else. I don't think I've ever had the city pay for my night. I've always gone another way.
But it's very insightful and a lot of information there for you to.
I've gone to
bring
the
back to our
conferences, but I've always
community.
found someone else to pay.
Sure.
That's what we have
But,
council
yeah,
expense
that's
money
what we have
for.
council expense for.
There's many cities that send their whole councils to these
Yep.
types of things. And if there's any
I try not to
any
go every time. because
facilitation
then
or
it's not
assistance,
fresh.
let me know. I can help out. So.
Yep. Okay.
This time I'm going to skip into every other one.
Okay. Department reports. Chief Greenway.
Yes, I'm happy to announce that we have moved forward with our plan of creating our first Thursday meeting, which, again, just to refresh everybody's memory, was a meeting we were going to create every first Thursday of the month, where the community can come in and meet the officers of the police department, myself, and we would talk about a certain topic. They would vary every month, and then for the first 30 minutes of the meeting, the second 30 minutes would be a question and answer session that the citizens would be able to ask questions that they normally wouldn't feel the need to call 911 for or something, but it's a chance to connect with the community and build a stronger relationship. So we got the library secured with the help of Margaret, and our first meeting is going to be Thursday, October 4th. The hours are going to be 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. And again, this is going to be a monthly meeting every first Thursday of the month. We just are calling it First Thursday. I'm finalizing the press release with Crystal, and we'll send that out. Our first topic for our first meeting will be Halloween safety. We don't anticipate a large turnout until we start to pick up momentum and the community starts to understand what the meeting's about and the opportunity that they can to interface with the officers about the issues that are concerning to them. Because again, everybody has a different outlook on what's important to them. It might not be traffic. It could be something like bicyclists, but whatever's concerning to the citizens of St. Helens is concerning to us. So we fear this is a good avenue to start connecting with the community on a regular basis. 2 weeks ago, we had our first meeting, public safety meeting for Halloween Town with the Columbia County Emergency Management Team, Scappoose Fire Department. It was we got the ball rolling, so we will be ready for the month of October as far from a public safety standpoint. Happy to report that the 102nd Civil Support Team out of Salem, Oregon, the Army National Guard, is going to be supporting again this year. And for those of you who don't know, each state has a civil support team assigned to them, and basically what this team does, it's they assist public safety with large events of this scale of Halloween Town, and they bring out resources that would either cost us a lot of money to purchase on our own, or we wouldn't have the expertise to run them. And again, not to the sky isn't falling, but if it's predictable, it's preventable. So the 102nd Civil Support Team will be out there with the air monitors to ensure that there's nothing of concern, any type of chemical release in the air. They also have the ability to test powdery substance. We'll work with the Oregon State Police for bomb dog sniffing and everything on that end before the event starts. So we have a meeting tomorrow with Tina Curry, myself, and Lieutenant Hogue, and we're going to start the planning process and build upon our strengths from last year and improve upon any weaknesses that were identified, or challenges, I should say, not weaknesses. But happy to report that we will be prepared and have a successful and safe Halloween Town this year for sure. I've been working with Matt and Mr. Walsh about moving a trailer from the school district over to the police department. My first couple weeks here, the first thing I noticed in walking in the St. Helens Police Department is that it is out
pretty small.
It's small,
Yeah.
and it's to the effect or to the point it's detrimental to police operations and the level of service to the community that we serve. And for instance, it's so small that a victim of a crime, while they have sensitive information that they're talking to a detective or an officer about inside there, and we have a custodian or another individual who shouldn't be aware of the sensitivity of the allegations at hand, can be overheard. It's just everybody has been there. It's to the point where we have to do something immediate. I know we had prior discussions about possibly a capital improvement plan of a new police station. But from my point of view and my experience, we need to do something now to alleviate the space. Literally, we can't have it. And again, I'm not trying to picture doom and gloom, but we have a person working on a computer in a hallway that is obstructing. People walking by. She has to get up to move. That's Brianne Mars. Yeah. While people are going through there, we have to ask her to leave if there's a victim of a crime, talking about their case. We had the individual involved in a traffic accident last week who could be a suspect. The investigation is ongoing, and we have nowhere to keep him in a secure area. It's a recipe for the disaster. So work with Matt and John. They've been gracious enough, and Scott Stockwell, to donate a school trailer that we can put on the St. Helens Police Department property. And then that would alleviate, once we get the IT and the power and the planning part with Jacob all fixed, and green lighted, we can put it there, and then we can start to alleviate, put offices in that trailer. Again, it's a temporary fix. It's not a permanent, but it at least brings that level of professionalism, brings that level of sensitivity to what we're dealing with on a daily basis within the police department. So Matt has got some quotes already, and we're just waiting on Jacob. And Matt, I don't know if you want to have anything to speak with on that.
Yeah, I could just quickly mention we got 2 quotes from 2 local companies. One is Oxbow, the other one is Emirate International. I have tried to get a third quote. I've spoken to one company over the phone about what we were trying to do and the distance and project. I can't remember the name of the company up in Washington. But that company did say that they would be well over what the 2 quotes are. So I'm still trying to find somebody that can actually come give us a real quote. but the lowest quote was from Oxbow, and it's for just under $16,000 to have the trailer moved from the middle school to the police station property where it would be moved. The internal stuff that we would need to do is figure out power, computers, and IT. That Center Logic can deal with that, but there is some planning stuff that Jacob needs to work through and go through that process. With the availability of him and stuff that he has already on his plate, he told us maybe September he could get to it, if not maybe a little bit after that. So we're still looking at a little bit ways to get through that planning process of getting everything done right before we actually move it and put it on the piece of property.
Do we know who moved the trailers from the white paper site to CCMH?
I do not know.
Because we donated trailers from that site.
Correct.
And they're being used at CCMH. So I wonder who did theirs, if that might be your third quote.
Also, there's a local company, and I don't know what the name of the company is,
That's
Melanie
Oxbow.
Killens. Is that Oxbow?
Probably Oxbow. I don't know Melanie Killens.
It's her brother. It's not her.
So
But I
I
don't know
just
the name of the
thought
company.
Mark Comfort, I think, coordinated that other effort, and so I wondered if.
Okay. Yeah, I can give Mark a call. I
If
have
you
his
might, if he
information.
might have somebody that does that on the side, that might be more. I know Oxbow is.
Good
You
idea.
got to get on their schedule because they are regional movers,
Yeah,
not just local.
They do a lot of big
They do a lot of big stuff.
A lot of big stuff. Also, I could probably get. I know the main manager for J&M Homes, which is a pretty big, single wide, a double wide, a triple wide. They wouldn't be the company, but whoever they use, we could probably get a hold of them.
Okay, that would be great.
Yeah, because it's not uncommon that they'll yank trailers out of
Yeah.
parks and move them.
Yep.
So-
Well, like I said, we still have some time before
Yep.
we can actually move it, just because of Jacob's process and planning process. So I would anticipate October, November timeframe.
It just seems a little steep to move it from 15th to.
It's 0.6 miles.
Yeah. It's,
Also, the school
seems a
district
little
has
steep.
moved their portables around at times, and you might check to see who they used.
I will give them. Yep. I will give them a call to see.
Sorry
So
to bust in
It's
on your report.
it's all right, Mr. Mayor, but
Yeah.
we appreciate Matt and Mr. Walsh, everything that everybody, it's a small victory, and it's motivating, for the officers and employees of the police department, is that there's some relief coming down the road. So we also, it was mentioned earlier, our CIT coordinator, Brianna Mars, the grant was extended. We're working on the agreement between us and CCMH to be signed, and I'll get on her about anything we can do with the courts. And then we're up, Matt, I don't know if this is time to bring up the body worn camera contract is set to be renewed. Body worn camera is a vital part of what we do on a daily basis. Three things a body worn camera brings into a community, and the first one is transparency, so everybody can understand what the officers do and make sure that they're held accountable. Number two is a sense of legitimacy to the community and to the officers, so people understand what the officers deal with on a daily basis. And the third thing is a risk prevention or risk management aspect, and what that is that if we identify anything on the body worn camera that needs to be addressed that's not brought forward by the public, or if there's an area of training that we need to improve on or build upon, that's a case in point too. So in my experience, body worn cameras is probably the best technology advancement law enforcement has seen year to date because of the benefits of it. So we are up for renewal on the body worn camera, and I believe Matt has a price of $13,000 for the next year around there, in seeking the approval of the council to go ahead forward with that to continue utilizing the body worn cameras.
Yeah. Yep. It's on tonight's agenda.
Oh, sorry.
That's right.
I'm new.
That's right.
That's all right.
And that's all I have.
That's
Thank
what
you for your
workshops
time.
are about.
Yep. Yep. That's what workshops are about. This is where you plug it.
Okay.
Yep. This is where you say tonight on your agenda. So just look at that, peek at that in the evening session, and
yes, sir.
You'll be familiar with it.
Thank you.
Yep. Sue.
I do have a couple of things I wanted to comment a little bit on some of the things that were discussed earlier in the meeting. First, in visitor comments, there was a gentleman who talked about the need for additional ADA compliant parking spaces. And just so that you guys are aware, we do try to add those whenever we have the opportunity to do that in places that are logical. Well, we can't add them in any parking space. They have to meet certain width requirements, they have to have a loading area, and they have to be accessible to an ADA compliant ramp to get to wherever they are. So we can't just go and put them because we want another one somewhere. It has to meet certain criteria. So, however, in the last about 6 months or so, we've added 4 spots, and I'm talking just from the plaza down. So down First Street, Cowlitz, and the southern part of Strand, we've added 4, and last year we added 3 in that same area. So within the last 2 years, we've had 7 new ADA spots added just in these 2.5 block area down here. About 2.5 blocks. So, and we're still looking for places where we can add them when we have those opportunities. But we'll also continue to look at what the standards are to make sure that we can meet those requirements when we have those opportunities to.
Can I
yes.
ask, does the cozy, that, it's like a multifaceted question, let me get my words together the right way. The amount of handicap spots you need, is it determined by the total number of spots or by the car count per day? So like you might have 10 spots, but like a convenience store may only have 10 spots, but they service 500 people a day. So I mean, how do you judge that?
I'm not the code person for that, but I believe it's based on the number of spots that you're required to have because of the type of business that you have. So maybe, okay, I didn't.
Yeah, building.
You started to.
Yeah, go ahead.
say
I was going
something.
to just say that our
There's
building official will be
yeah,
right.
Yeah,
Cozy
building
is
codes
a good
and
call out of what he stated. Is the cozy was a good call out because I noticed that a lot of seniors really struggle to get in there on a Sunday. And I don't know whether they meet the code or whether they're so old that maybe they don't.
Well,
and I didn't.
That's one of, there's a lot of businesses and a lot of things that they're grandfathered in basically the way they are. We always encourage people to bring things up to date, but until they do make an action that requires, like, say somebody was remodeling, they want to put new booze and, change something in their kitchen. Well, guess what? You got to put in an ADA restroom now or something like that. So, but again, those are building code requirements.
For events, just for parking spots, I have talked about just about every year about accessible parking for Tuesday nights and stuff.
Yes.
Other places do temporary ADA parking. And is that something we've never done? Or I know for 4th of July, they used the parking lot in front of the courthouse.
Well, we have had some ADA, ADA parking spot on those, I think they're on tires or something like that, that they can just temporarily stick out. They have used those in the past for other events, but I've also seen, and I don't know if Tina's still around, but I have seen them do like a handicap parking area, and then they shuttle the people back and forth to the festival location. But that's something that Tina's set up.
Okay.
Maybe Neil remembers more about how that was set up. But okay, so I wanted to comment on that. And then the other was Mr. Gardner's concern about a proposed barricade there at Milton Way and Columbia Boulevard. So even what he showed was a recommendation from the 2011 Transportation System Plan. So the Transportation System Plan was developed took over a year to put this together with a lot of public input, and at the council at the time, their input, and Planning Commission, and everybody had a lot of thought that went into all those different recommendations. That particular idea that he showed as a proposal is not really a proposal, it's just a recommendation from that particular plan based on the comments that we received from the public and from the council at that time. By no means is it something that this is what's going to happen and we have no way to change this. At this point in time, there's absolutely no plans to make any changes at that intersection. If there are funds available to do something in the future, there would certainly be a great deal of public input We'd have to look at current traffic statistics at that time and see, you know, what are the new traffic counts. Things are obviously going to change. Conditions are going to change before we end up being able to do anything at that intersection. And then there's going to be a lot of input from our law enforcement people, certainly from council, and certainly from the public before any decisions are made. Jacob, unfortunately, isn't here this week, but he had some additional information from that one plan that was shown as the recommended plan for that intersection. There was alternative plans that were also considered, and one of them accommodated that turning motion across there. That might not be the appropriate thing to do at the time that we do improvements at that intersection, but we won't know that until we get to that point in the future and we see how things are done.
That's weird that would come as a surprise, because I know there was a big pushback when we did the corridor plan for all the people that live in that neighborhood. Thought that they wanted more time and more thought put into that because they felt cut out. And so we're like, nothing's happening today. So.
Absolutely nothing's happening today. We don't have any plans to do anything with that at this point in time, but there's
So what do we have?
been a lot of work done there.
So what do we have to do with the parking up there? Anything?
At the chamber?
Yeah.
How they're striped.
How they're striped, because
That's not a bad
the way they're striped, it looks inviting to somebody that, hey, go the wrong way here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're slanted the wrong way.
Yep.
I don't know who stripes those. I don't know if that's the chamber.
It's a chamber,
responsible
so
for that, or
Probably hit them, but we didn't change them. We just hit what.
hit what's already there. So it might already be done this year.
So that would be one thing we could look at.
We could certainly look at that, like,
Yeah.
you know, help that situation out a bit. But going back to his testimony, there was one thing that really stood out, and that was the legal agreement that the family and the city involved themselves in, and if we do something to that intersection, the family has the right to take that back. That, to me, is very interesting, and I just want to I want that to be noteworthy for his testimony and for either Jacob or somebody on the staff to look into that before we move forward or make any kinds of plans at all to do anything. So that stuck out.
Right.
To me.
Yeah, I would think somebody would need to look at that and make sure that.
The legal counsel.
Yeah, that would be an attorney would have to look at that. But legal use of the right of way includes things like plazas and sidewalks and pedestrian and landscaping. Those are all legal uses of a right of way. And it doesn't mean that we're giving up the use of the right of way. We're using it for legal purposes. But absolutely, this would be something that would need to be taken into consideration when improvements were being considered at that location. That was all I had. So thanks.
So I guess I got one more comment on the handicap gentleman's concerns, and he mentioned John Gum School. If memory serves me, the reason there's no handicap spaces in the front is because the front isn't accessible by handicap, and the handicap spaces are on the side of the building where the handicap access is. Just
Maybe they need a sign that indicates where the handicapped access is. Because I know federal buildings, it's not a public building, it's a private building. But any building you go to, if a bank, there's a sign, like a museum, there's a sign, a handicap that points that direction, so people know, don't park here because you can't get in. But that's up to the building owner.
Yeah, that's up to the building owner. The only other comment I was going to is the restroom down at Gray Cliff Park. The plumbing was all hooked up today, and hopefully getting our plumbing inspection tomorrow. So we'll be able to backfill all that, and then everything's pretty much done except for the electrical. So that's coming right along.
Yeah, that's a pretty nice bathroom. Yes.
That's all I got.
Okay. So I have Edward's card here too. So I'll probably pass it to you, and maybe you could give him a call just to kind of explain a few things to him. Yeah, try to. I hear us talking about getting with Tina and accommodating, especially the events, because we have that potential. So, especially with Halloween Town coming up. So, yep. Okay. Matt. And I see we got our judge and
Yeah,
our
I was gonna
prosecutor
ask
here.
if you're okay if I
Yeah,
have Sam
yep,
and
I am okay.
Judge Lundgren. You guys want to come up and
Good afternoon. Good.
Sorry we came in late.
That's right.
Has Matt, have you given the
yeah, I gave him the
financial report?
report.
Okay,
So
great. I just wanted to talk to everyone about kind of what Mr. Erskine and I have been doing the last month. When we first came in, we basically just reviewed what the current policies were and how things were being handled. The first order of business was to separate the court files from the prosecutor files. That was a surprise that those had been commingled. It would be like a defense attorney's investigative file being in the court file. It really needs to be a separation of powers. And so we have implemented that practice, and for cases that are new, there's basically a complete barrier. And then for the older cases, as they come in, we take the police reports out. Do you have anything to add to that?
No, I think it was a necessary.
That seems kind of interesting to me, that would be, they would commingle.
I don't know what the theory was behind it, other than maybe it was easier.
And that was one of my concerns.
Yeah.
Thank
And
you.
That, yes, it may be easier to have less files sitting around, but ethically, it just cannot happen.
Yep.
So that was first thing. We next are tackling the backlog. I believe that Mr. Erskine is working still on the cases that hadn't been charged since Mr. Lance left.
Those have all been charged, and I didn't pull a ton of numbers for you guys, but I can tell you that 95 cases have been issued since I started at the end of June. And then beyond that, I've reviewed 147 files.
Okay.
So that means that the 147 includes those 95.
You want to pull?
Sure.
Yes, share mic. Kathy's looking at me like, make.
Sure. Yeah, I'll repeat myself.
I know
on
that
the
look.
record. So yeah,
Yes.
since the end of June when I started, I've reviewed and issued 95 cases, which constitute the backlog, and then also the cases that were coming in since I started. And then I've also reviewed 147 files. And I took those numbers based on the notes that I created for each one of those files. So there's still a significant backlog of files that I have to go through to kind of figure out what was going on there and then make a decision as to how to proceed. But at least in terms of new reports that are coming in, I'm all caught up on those.
And it's my understanding that there were boxes of files that the cases had been charged, but that the practice had been to not set them on the court docket until a resolution had been worked out. And that just creates this huge backlog of
Yeah.
cases because oftentimes with the clientele, you don't get a resolution until you're forced to come to court. And so there's just, in no other court had there ever been a practice where you just don't have a court appearance. The cases just have to be moving along, and if someone doesn't like the offer, then it goes to trial.
Yeah.
And so that's our next big hurdle, is just getting those cases back on the docket, which will take significant resources, I think, just to have Ricky and Melanie send letters out to get those people to come back to court. And so we're just trying to save up court dockets, court days, to have those people come in and just get the cases moving again. So I'm hopeful.
So you kind of got to be the bad guy a little bit and pull these
You gotta
people
be-
in, yes, to straighten it back out, is what I hear you saying.
Yes, and you know what happens is people don't keep up their address and phone numbers, and so people move around. And if a case has been sitting around for 6 months, then we may send a letter, but they may not get it because they've moved. And so what happens then is that we have to issue a warrant, and then the warrant is served, and then they come in, which is inconvenient for everybody. So But that's what has to happen
Yes.
in order to get the cases back on track.
Yep. That's understandable.
Yeah,
I mean,
and I would just add that there are, on cases that are 2 years old or older, there are viable motions that a defense attorney or a defendant can make to dismiss those cases. So I'm doing my best to get those cases moving along
Good.
first.
Good.
So that we don't lose any of the work that went into those.
Yeah.
Next has been getting defense attorneys back on the contract, I would say. We have three pretty set ones, Aaron Martin, Emily Ellison, and Rock Pizzo. I think the practice had been that defense attorneys were not generally used, and they weren't being appointed, which is a problem because a lot of the cases are predicate offenses for future felonies. So for DUI cases and potential theft cases, if you don't have an attorney on the underlying one, then they don't count as a predicate for it to be a felony offense later.
Oh.
And so having the attorneys, while it can be more expensive for the people who have to pay, or if they can't pay for the city, just as a public safety issue, it's very crucial.
But maybe it might correct some people that stack up those. I used to do intakes in A&D, so when people start stacking up, if they have a lawyer at each step of the way, maybe some of them can break that.
Yes, yeah.
But
Yeah,
if
and I
they
think having
don't have a
somebody-
lawyer, they think, oh, this is no big deal. I don't have a lawyer, and they don't think it counts. But by having a lawyer, they're very clear that it counts.
Yeah, and I think then they're also getting the advice that they need, that if you
To follow through.
Yes.
to follow through, and do you really want to plead guilty to this because you have a
Yes.
valid defense,
Right.
and you don't necessarily want that predicate. And ultimately, I think everyone, Mr. Erskine, me, the defense attorneys, just want everybody to have a fair shot.
Yes.
And it's just fundamentally the right thing to do if people want an attorney and if they qualify to appoint them attorneys, and not to discourage them from that. And so what has been important is getting qualified defense attorneys, and I think that Columbia County is also short defense attorneys as well. So it's not just that they don't want to come work for St. Helens, it's that there's not a lot of defense attorneys in the county. But I feel comfortable with who we have now, and that I have 2 additional defense attorneys who, once their caseloads lighten up, that they are going to come on board as well. So
Good.
that's very promising.
Again, thank you for that change.
Yeah. We've also been working with the police department. Sergeant Eustace is our court liaison. Thank you, Chief. And he's been great. We've established a procedure for having in custody cases have their court appearance and be arraigned. So there's a rule that they have to, once you're arrested, you have to have an arraignment or a court see the judge within 36 hours, excluding holidays and weekends. And so that's a pretty strict rule in my mind. And so I believe the police department, if it's not too much of a resource suck, will transport the people to the court on days that I'm not here, and then I have the ability to come, sit in my home office and do the arraignment by home, by video. And we just did it yesterday, and Mr. Erskine was there by phone, and so we had 3 people come in, and that was, I thought, pretty seamless on our end, and hopefully didn't take an officer off the road for too long. Also, presumptive fines, I think, are an issue. What I think has been happening is that there was a city assessment of $31 that has been added on top of the state presumptive fine, and there was a House bill in 2011 that prohibited that practice, and so we need to basically set up with the police department to just issue the citations with the presumptive fine as stated in the ORS. And to the extent they aren't, then the court staff will just reduce it by amending it, and instead of charging them $271 for a Class B violation, we'll charge the $245 that's mandated by the state. So that will, I understand, affect the financial situation, well, that's at $31 additional for each case, but that's what the law requires.
That's right.
Yes.
Not really much we can do about that. And that's about it for me. I think it'll just, it will take us a few months to get through this backlog and to kind of figure things out as we go. We also realized the FTR, our recording device, wasn't operating, so we had to suspend court one day for that and get that back up and running. So there are things that are just popping up here and there, but I think as we're all getting to know each other and understanding the procedures, it's all going smoothly in that regard. Ricky and Melanie have been amazing, very supportive, and very willing to accept some of the changes we're making. So I've been really grateful that they are there.
I'll second that, and I would also just say that it's been a pleasure to work with Amy so far. She's done a really good job since she's come on board. So.
And if anyone has any questions for us or wants to talk to us individually after, we'll be around. We have another arraignment that is waiting for us, I believe.
Okay.
But I'm always available by email or phone, too, if anyone wants to chat or have any questions.
Are we welcome at any time to drop in, see what's going on, just from being perceptive that way without
We would love
causing
it.
any confusion or anything? In
I
and
may
outs,
I
okay.
may call you up thinking you're a defendant, but hopefully I'll recognize you.
I was going to try to make it easy on myself, in the future, but well,
No, we would love to have any of you visit and see how everything's operating.
Is it still mainly Monday and Tuesdays?
Yes. As of October, we'll move to Mondays and Thursdays.
Okay.
One reason is that it would separates the days for these for the in custody cases.
Sure, the 36-hour.
Yeah, for
Yep.
the 36-hour
Yep.
rule, we wouldn't have to do less where they'll be transported. Because if we're all here, then Mr. Erskine goes to the jail and does it by video there. So
Yes.
he calls in through FaceTime or Skype. So that doesn't take an officer off the road for that. And so we wanted to have those days separate.
Thank you very much for identifying and addressing these areas of concern.
Yeah. You're welcome, and we're up for the task. So
Yes.
it's been
That's good.
Yeah.
And thank you for the report, because we need to know what's going on over there. Because I'm sure we'll have a few people complain,
Mhm.
because that's going to happen because of the big changes and you guys having to get through the backlog and kind of the no BS, just this is the way it is, and on the next case. Because it seems that that was probably the main reason for the backlog, was a lot of coddling, maybe?
Yes, and that actually brings up another point, was that there seemed to be a lot of old files that were maybe somebody on probation for 4 or 5, 6 years, and constantly giving people extensions, and if they're not going to comply pretty quick, do their treatment or whatever, then there needs to be a consequence and move on. So I'm pulling a lot of those older files and going through those and trying to figure out.
Which it does work. Tough love does work. It does. I mean, sometimes we got certain cases that I understand, and I know our discussion earlier, but I know there's some of those that just will continue to do what they do.
Right, but we need appropriate handling, not.
Yes.
I wouldn't have called it coddling. It just needs to be appropriate.
It's the word I chose just because.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, and please come join us in court anytime.
Yep.
So
Thank
just wanted to ask you, before we hired you guys, we had talked to the judges and whatnot, the county and whatnot, and wanted to set up like quarterly meetings and whatnot. So I told Matt to maybe set that up for maybe the month after next or something like that. If you guys feel comfortable with that, kind of getting your feet wet and don't want to get too many things started if there's changes need to be made. So
No, I agree. I met with Janet Evans, who was the corrections over at Columbia County Corrections, and we went through some of the things Circuit Court does. And then next on my list is to meet with some of the judges as well and get more consistent with them. And a friend of mine is actually one of the deputy DAs over there. And so I also met with Jeff Auxier.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Auxier.
Auxier. And so we're hopefully going to be doing that in the very near future. Just trying to do everything within a couple of days. Too.
Right.
But I'm hoping within the next month we'll have met with them and maybe set up a schedule where we can
Yeah.
meet more often.
Then we want some probably law enforcement involved in that also. Yeah.
Will you guys be making that meeting at noon on Friday to the LP?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. It was our intention to go.
Yep.
So.
I'll be there as well.
Okay.
Earlier in the court report section, they were talking about the things we talked about earlier was the crisis intervention team training that's typically been for police centric, and their question was asked about does that extend to the court staff too? And that, in case you're wondering what we were talking about earlier, that was the conversation. So.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Any other questions?
No? Nope.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Yep. Okay, Matt, your report.
All right. Would like to give you guys all and ladies an update on the Farah building, where we're at, where we're kind of looking at right now, some funding stuff that we're kind of slowly working on. So hopefully that won't take too long. As you know, Shauna and I have been, and Roger and the Public Works crew has been over at the Farah building doing some stuff on the inside, taking a look, getting some quotes for a lot of the things that need to be done. One of those most pressing things is the roof that needs to be done. We have received a few quotes from that, 3 I believe. The lowest bid was about $18,000. That is a capital improvement that we need to do before winter time. So that is something that I can find funding for, either through the Facility Major Maintenance Fund. We also have a couple other resources that can be used to fund that initial $18,000 to get us to a point of stability a little bit. So we don't have to worry about the roof caving in or anything happening during the winter time. So that's one of the most pressing things. The other laundry list of things stems from flooring, doors, windows, landscaping on the front, siding, painting, parking. The eventual question of what is that building going to be used for? Is it going to be a recreation community center place? Is it going to be used for something else as far as renting it out to other agencies or community members that want to rent it for meetings and stuff like that? So those are some questions to kind of ponder for the future a little bit. We don't have to answer them right now. As far as funding for some of these items that are on this laundry list, as we get into the next several months of looking at doing projects in that building, the question of where does the funding come from? So the goal, obviously my goal, is to not have the city have to expend, if not any, if not very little, of its own resources to help build this building into what we believe it could be. The recreation program received a grant last year, as you know, for operations and funding from the Ford family of about $25,000. We received that grant and are using that for some of our programming funding. Inside that funding, there is an opportunity to use some of those funds for capital projects if we choose to. The Jenny just finished and submitted writing a grant as well to the Columbia Pacific CCO for $20,000. We will not hear back from them till probably around September, although we did receive an email back and an invitation to their board meeting next Monday, of which Jenny and Shauna are going to attend to talk about the recreation program, because the CCO has kind of an open invitation for us to come back and potentially use them as a resource for specific capital projects, because they may have a use for the building in the future as well, as far as renting it out and using it for some of the programs and things that they offer. So they have offered to potentially give us more than the grant amount specifically for those capital projects. So like I said, Jenny and Shauna are going to meet with them on Monday to give them some more information and talk about it. We'll also invite them out to come view the building so that they can kind of get a real view of what the potential is out there. As far as other grant opportunities, we would like to go back to the Ford family. Once we get all the quotes done for all the projects that we would like to do, I'm anticipating if you were to go from where it is right now to fully operational and a real usable building, it's probably going to be about $50,000 to $60,000. That includes the 18 for the roof. But to get to that point, we may seek out some other opportunities like the Ford family for grant opportunities that we can use that building as a community and resource center for other agencies to use, group meetings, community meetings, school meetings, any kind of opportunities like that. So we do have some grant opportunities that we're looking at right now. As far as the most immediate need for that is the roof. That I explained that we do have money available in the facilities major maintenance fund, as well as a couple other resources if we do go over that $18,000 a little bit just to get to kind of a baseline. So we did take down the Ferris sign. So the sign is down. If you drive by it, you probably wouldn't know though, because it's faded and it still says Ferris very clearly. But the sign is down, just for the record. So
Progress.
Progress, one step at a time. So, were there any questions about the Ferry building?
Nope.
You want to talk about what color it's going to get painted?
Thought that had already been settled.
I'm glad you brought up the the idea of asking the council to reflect on what the vision is for that building and in the future. And I think that's very important for us to kind of get to and devote some time to fairly soon. So that process might be lengthy, but I think to get started on that's going to be very important. And I mean, it's sitting in such a great position now, close to McCormick Park, the expansion of Milton Creek down the road with all that stuff.
Lots of factors.
Needs to be talked about, and I think the sooner the better we can start talking and kind of inching away on that, the better.
There is some much needed upgrades, but as far as how the building looks spatially and how open it is on the inside, we don't plan on putting up any walls or doing anything like that. We're just going to keep it open and playing as much as we can because we don't know what that future may turn into be. So the color of the building will be kind of a grayish green. If you drive by it, underneath the City of St. Helens sign, there's a little painted section that was done just so we can kind of see what color we chose. It's a little bit different from a paint palette to actually seeing it on the building. A secondary color for the trim has not been chosen yet, but that will come shortly. So if you want to drive by and kind of see what the color is going to be, and then Mark Comfort is going to be helping us with some of the siding work because we already have a personal services contract with him for some of the work that he's doing on the Boise White Paper site.
Is that just where it was hit, Matt?
I'm sorry?
Just where it was hit, the building?
No, as far as cleaning up, painting actually the outside, doing any kind of siding work. And
a little bit of repair? Yeah,
some of the initial kind of work, painting the inside. So that kind of work that we can kind of do in the interim that doesn't cost a whole lot. Already having a personal services agreement with him helps us out tremendously for doing some of that
Because you can
work.
bring in a spray gun and just blast the whole thing inside out.
Correct. And with all the projects that Public Works has on its plate with just their normal stuff plus Halloween Town and Fairyland Festival thing and everything else, counting on Roger being able or Public Works staff to be open is difficult to do, especially this time of year. So having Mark is a welcomed hand and will help get the process started.
Okay.
So that's all I got.
Anything else? Okay. Kathy?
The only thing I have is it was brought to my attention that the November 21st council meeting is the day before Thanksgiving.
Ooh.
And I wanted to know if the council wanted to still have that meeting or.
I would like to maybe we bump it up. Maybe we have it on a Monday. Everybody okay with that? You be gone? Yeah, that's all right.
I kind of think that it could be an alternative of see if we can get the agenda built and just kind of split it between the two meetings and possibly do away with that meeting, cancel it because of that, because of people's, Thanksgiving, there's a lot of people moving around and doing a lot of things.
Yeah, there is. Yep.
So I think that if there's a heavy schedule, try to get it move it to the next meeting, or try to anticipate what we will have and bring it forward to the meeting prior. So that would be my recommendation. I don't know how the rest of council feels, because I know that there's going to be, our family is big, and there's going to be a lot of moving around and that kind of thing.
Can we, I mean, after this summer and how heavy the load was of skipping, maybe look at what that agenda normally looks like? Because I know, can you, not for this year, because you have no idea, but look at what the workload is typically in November, you know?
It varies. I mean,
all over.
There's really no consistency.
I think if there was something pressing, we could, I know I'm available the week before, if we had to do even on a Thursday, a week and a day later, you know, on a Thursday, and we needed
Time-sensitive stuff.
yeah, just a regular meeting, we can go right into a regular meeting, into a work session, or into our regular session. Just kind of do a mini one, start it, like people were asking anyhow, start it maybe at 5:30, unless there's a public hearing that needs to be set, but start it at 5:30 and just go right into a regular meeting right after that.
And when are you thinking of that?
Like the Thursday would be like the 17th or 18th, right?
The 15th?
15th? Oh, wow. Yeah, yeah. Yep. Because I'm going to agree with Jenny is that we might have a lot going on, and there might be something that really needs to be pushed through.
That's only a week apart, week after the
I know.
Okay. I agree that it was tough this summer with only one meeting for 2 months.
Hey, if there's nothing, we can always cancel it, but let's schedule it, just, you know.
Okay.
So as a special meeting?
Yeah, it would have to be.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you'd cancel the regular meeting and then pick a date for a special meeting.
Yeah.
And if as the agenda fills in, we'll decide whether it's...
And then the agenda being everything.
That could come, yes.
So work session and regular session?
Yes.
Just right after each?
Yep, right after, yep.
Okay. Gotcha.
Bare bones.
That's all I had.
Okay. John.
All right. Well, I had a long list, and most of it's been touched on, but I'll pick the things we haven't already talked about. Halloween was pretty exhaustive. Hopefully that was a good update, and if to the extent you feel like you're informed, I hope that's the case. So, yeah. One of the things that was talked about earlier is the alien landing crash site thing, and I think that's going to be a great addition to the project. We got a preview of the little film that's going to run in there, and it's pretty fun. So, and then we could play it if we wanted to. It's about 12 minutes, but perhaps another time.
Yep.
So, update on the St. Helens Build grant, our transportation grant for the St. Helens Riverfront project, which is our $15 million grant to the federal government. We're continue to be encouraged. It's a federal grant. It's across the whole country. We're competing nationally. We're competing locally. We're actually competing geographically as well. There was 14 projects from, I think 800 projects total across the country. 14 of those were from Oregon. We have made Senator Wyden and Senator Merkley's top picks to move forward in the process. They've recommended our projects, so they're in the top 1, 2, or 3. And they've made those calls to the Secretary of Transportation, Elaine Chao. So we're not celebrating quite yet, but it continues to look very encouraging. Similar to the funding for the wastewater lagoon project feasibility, that go money that we've been trying to capture for the last year or so is starting to come together, and looking forward to moving that question forward. This is a good fit for our community, which it conceptually seems to be really good for the waterfront, and extending the waterfront and the amenities and assets along for the city. Been working on participating in the Regional Tourism Initiative with CCTs leading that, and that's been doing all right. So, we've got interest in the Armstrong property, which is pretty encouraging. It's a similar type of business. They do cardboard, but they have big numbers for wastewater, big numbers for water, big numbers for employment. And it's really a similar base thing. So it's a little premature, but it's also encouraging. So Casey Wheeler from the food bank reached out to inquire whether the city wanted to sponsor a team for the Barbara Bullis golf tournament, something we've done at least since I've been here every year. 14th annual?
Yes.
14th annual kind of thing. It's a donation to the food bank. You know, they come out and there's a raffle and things. It's usually a pretty good time. There's a lot of political people there and community people. Reminder that there's an urban renewal meeting tonight at 6:30.
Yeah. 6:30 or 6?
6:30. 6:30, and
Okay.
the purpose of that meeting is singular, and it is to approve the budget, so that we are able to capture the tax increment funding for this year. We're not.
Did you guys not have that?
Yeah,
We had part one. We didn't have part two.
We had the budget committee meeting.
Oh.
But this is the part where we approve the budget, and then it, you know, so we're not talking about projects unless.
Is that the recommendation? And
Yeah, it's a very, very, very singular focused mission, so, for tonight. Been working with our developer, Toklo Properties, on all the pre-development types of things. They continue to be encouraged and positive, and this grant really ties in, is really the hook that's going to set them to be here. Their project independence is going very well. They're pleased, but he's very excited about St. Helens being the next project, so.
yeah, I wouldn't mind getting them out here sometime.
He has an open invitation to come and talk to the council anytime he wants. So, anytime the council wants to have him here, or public meeting, any forum, workshop, any kind of format.
I think it's a great deal, and I think that we need to actually start putting
More information
Yeah,
out there.
yep.
That's wonderful.
Yep. So definitely, we'll set up a time soon.
I think that's it.
Okay. All right, council reports. Councilor Locke.
Well, let's see. So last week or 2 weeks ago, I was down at the coast at the summit. Attended pretty much the cannabis summit relay that the state had. They talked about wasn't a whole lot of new information other than they were talking about limiting permits, which I think could be detrimental to us, possibly. Right now, there's a big overproduction. So I don't know. I think they need to treat it like any other company and product and let the best guy win, as far as I'm concerned, instead of limiting permits. I think some of the maybe drug growers are in their ear and saying, hey, we need to limit the permits so no new guys can come in. I think they've already heard about what we're doing up here, and so they're kind of scared of what's going on up here, that it could be, take over all the other growers. So, but that's democracy. They talked about, the feds, that they need to loosen the rules and whatnot. One of the things is being able to ship it out of state. Right now, there's a lot of black market stuff going on. There's a shortage of inspectors. So just all those type of programs and problems that they have and whatnot. They're still working on rules, trying to fix them. Have a lot of work to do. Other than that, we have somebody that's interested in renting one of our office spaces in the training center over at the mill site. I know that ACSP has shown interest in renting that at some point in time, but I don't know when that is. That's down the road at some point. So this individual would be working with Cascades. He just needs an office space. And so I told him that, at least for maybe a limited time or whatnot, that he could be in there, but and give us a proposal on. I told him there was the heating need to be fixed and whatnot. Maybe he could take care of that or whatever. We could work out some sort of arrangement. So that may be coming around. And Chief Greenway, he's talked about these meetings on Thursdays, these first Thursday meetings and whatnot, and he was talking about getting sponsors for cookies and maybe some drinks and stuff like that, so that somebody would actually come to the meetings. And so I told him that he was worried about paying for those, and I said that maybe if he couldn't get a sponsor, that the council might help those with our council expenses, since we have money left over usually. So
I think we could do something about that.
So so have we got 4 players for a golf tournament, Doug?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Belcher from.
You got my text, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So, Mr. Belcher from the Parks Commission volunteered to step forward on that. Be the 4th.
Okay.
Need a 4th for golf. Need a 4th for bridge. I don't know. This is going to be a fundraiser, so it's going to be a lot of fun. Bring your wallet.
So, okay, that's it.
Okay, Councilor Carlson.
Couple of things. Something that, the one thing that came up, I had a lot of other stuff, but like John, most of it has been talked about. Chief Greenway talked about being a safe community, and in my travels, I'm seeing a lot of kind of a sign, a 20 is plenty campaign. In a lot of rural neighborhoods. I know you see the campaign signs that are in people's yards. I'm not sure where it comes from, but they're the same, and it doesn't seem to matter what community you're in. But it's kind of like the citizens deciding that they want people to slow down. And I just didn't know if we could find out more information about how that goes about, if that's just a neighborhood has decided to do that, or because I've seen them in Tigard, I've seen them in Portland, I've seen them in Gresham. And they're usually white signs with blue letters, and they're just in people's front yards. They look just like the peace signs or whatever. They're like this big.
There's also drive like your children are in this neighborhood.
Right. I just wonder if there's a safety campaign out there that we might be able to be kind of a little more neighborhood watchy, a little less writing tickets.
You know, that might be something for the bicycle and pedestrian group, the commission, to look into. Maybe it can bring that up into our next parks and pedestrian bicycle friendly
if we could find
committee.
the information, I would be happy to help take it to the PTOs at the school, because I'm betting there's a lot of parents that would want people to slow down too. And I know that you can't do temporary rules, but you can kind of decide as a neighborhood that we're going to slow down and look out for kids.
Good idea.
So that's all I have.
Hey, Councilor Khan.
Okay.
Google has lots to say about it.
'Tis the season, and the Scarecrow Contest is going to go on again this year. The information will be going out this week and next week. I was recently appointed to the Chamber of Commerce representing the city. They moved their meeting to 3 o'clock today, so I'm missing my first meeting.
Oh, no.
I had an opportunity to tour the county parks with the regional tourism group, and I was absolutely amazed at what fantastic recreational opportunities there already are and that could be in this community. And we included Salmonberry in our tour. So that's pretty exciting. Let's see. Sorry, I have a list. This week I wrote 2 letters of support for arts project grants. And hope to see more community involvement in the arts. Speaking of arts, there was a recommendation in response to a suggestion that Doug made at one of the Arts and Cultural Commission meetings. He suggested that the council should send 2 of their members to the LOC conference too, and so they would like to recommend that we act on that. So I need to hear from the rest of you on that.
Well, I stand by that recommendation. I think the more the more education we have with our committees and our council, obviously is up to speed. But with our committees, I think that would be a huge eye opener for especially some of our new committee members and commission members to go to this. And other cities do that as well. It's not only the city council. Matter of fact, I've seen concerned citizens at those meetings as well.
Yeah. Is that just the fee of the LOC, or are we talking, in Councilor Carlson's case, she might need a motel, or a hotel? I mean, we're just talking the fee.
I would say the fee for the conference,
I would
not
think
the hotel.
Yeah, I would think I think the fee would be great.
Okay.
That would
As
be.
long I just know the hotel would get.
Yeah.
You know.
And I'm not sure whether they'll take advantage of it or not. I know 2 members thought they were going to, and they were unable to. So we'll see what happens with that.
Okay.
What do you?
Well, I think that would be. Let's set a policy right now, so that it doesn't linger on or whatever. If there are committees or commission people who would like to attend a League of Oregon Cities conference, that the council, if there are funds available in the councilor's fund, that the council would hear that recommendation and vote on who can the number of participants that can attend that.
Yeah,
knowing that we would pay for their registration fee.
And perhaps we only want to send 1, not 2.
Yeah.
I don't know. There are other opportunities for them too. They attended a class on grants.
Good.
Earlier.
I think it would be good.
They're trying to educate themselves.
Well, I think it would be good for also like, if any committee wanted to send 1 member, I think that would be especially like planning commission would be a big one. They want to send a member and have them report on what they pick a couple topics that they really are interested in, and that person goes there.
I could see where sitting on our discussions might teach them a little bit more about how government operates too, and how they can.
I mean, clearly
best operate with us.
Clearly, this one coming up on urban renewal, it'd be nice to have a lot of eyes around it, especially with everything that we got going on.
So.
I like the idea. So
I do too, and I think that possibly to get somebody to go, even pay their hotel bill, because not all the time all of us counselors go where we would be paid for. So there's money there be spent, and it's good money.
Well, let's talk about we can talk about that as we review our funds that we have in our counselor in our council fund. As we review those, we can make that decision at that time.
Yeah, I foresee it being difficult if we have members from every single committee and commission that we have going.
We'd have to draw the line.
Yeah.
But
I'd rather draw the line on hotels than I would on their being able to attend the conference. If we have to.
Yep.
Yeah.
We just play it by ear.
I'd rather see 1 or 2 go if you paid for their hotel than nobody going if you didn't pay for their hotel.
Will they give us a report of what they
I will
they heard?
Tell them they need to.
Yes. So we want to approve 2 of them right now? Is that what are we going to go ahead and do this? Because they have to make arrangements
plans,
like we do.
Yeah, to basically get the word back to them as still open to if they care to.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I hear.
Okay. All right.
Okay. I also attended the Legislative Coastal Caucus Summit that John and Keith were at, and 2 of the other issues besides cannabis were climate change and education. And there was a lot of discussion around current and anticipated effects of carbon and the economic impact in Oregon and possible solutions to reduce CO2. And as far as education, there was focus on graduation for one of the panels. Each panel was different, but the one that interested me was talking about what has worked and what doesn't in educating our students. Congresswoman Suzanne Bonamici talked about STEM and STEAM, and Congressman Greg Walden also spoke to education. The last session had featured Greg Hinkleman from City of Clatskanie, their city manager. And it was about whether small local jurisdictions can continue to contract out for building inspectors has been the accepted practice. It was a really lively discussion and interesting. And this one just came to my attention. I have a request to go. I've been invited to go to CIT, a regional CIT conference, October 9th through 12th by Brianne Mears, our CIT coordinator, and Carol Speed from Greater Oregon Behavioral Health. It's in Kennewick, Washington, and I would
like to approve that.
Seems like it's a good follow-up to what we're already doing.
part of the discussion. Okay,
Okay. Anything else?
that's it.
Okay.
Thank
Council President Morton.
This is going to be interesting. You've heard me allude to this some time ago, and I think originally it came from testimony by Patrick Berkeley. Or is it Brickley?
Berkeley.
Berkeley, I'm sorry.
You're right.
And that's to move our, this session, start to move it towards the evening session, so it gives our community, all our work people who are working, an opportunity to participate more in our city government. I'm a strong advocate of that, and I'll just say it again, that I'd like to see that session move, this session move towards the evening. So with time and all of that, I don't know, we could work out and see what's most effective, what's most efficient. Maybe we might have a public forum on that, see how our public feels about that. It might be a good topic for a public forum. It's not non-controversial, I think, and it certainly isn't about taxes or anything like that. So I could see that functioning. The big piece of that is that it will allow more people to participate and commit to even serving, like Patrick. I'm sure that's what brought him to the position that he took when he presented that opinion. Anyway, I'd like to see us think about that and work towards that if we possibly can. A couple things that the Fair building brings up, and I was down kind of looking at that area and moved around that area, and then I started looking at the building, the shape it was in, and boy, it does need some upgrades, landscape, that kind of thing. But more than that, what's very obvious is the sign of Cascade Tissues across the street with a couple dead trees leaning on that sign. And we need help there. So something has to happen to that sign. First of all, it's our industrial park.
That's right.
It's not all Cascade Tissues.
Yeah.
Cascade Tissues is one of the leases in that area. So if we can find some way to work with that area and dress that up, I'd like to see that happen. Whether we need a talk or feel that it should be an action item and we should ask our staff or Public Works or whoever to do that, that's up to you.
And claim
you know.
it.
What?
And claim it.
Sure.
It's ours.
A couple other things about kind of the way things look, and I like the report on Gray Cliff's restroom down there. That's really going to help that park down there. That's really going to dress that up, and it's going to help that kayak and canoe launch area. It's pretty cool. I'm glad to see it's coming along. What I'm holding my breath on is the Veterans Park. The Plaza Park and the concrete that's to be poured there. Hopefully, we have to cross our fingers about the weather, because November's right around the corner, and the target date was for Veterans Day 11 at 11 a.m. So hopefully it'll be ready to go at that time, and just cross my fingers on that. And that's our project manager on that is a person in our community, Andrew Nemi, who has Lower Columbia Engineering. He's a big part of that. The veterans as well, they have their ideas, and they have a lot of say on what that design is going to look at. And then, of course, there is our Public Works and the city participating in that as a third leg of a stool. So it's I'm excited about that collaboration, and it's gone really well thus far. I think that's about it, other than I took a good tour of Sand Island, and that would have been on Monday afternoon, and it is clean. I went around to try to pick up stuff, nothing there. So that yacht club, and I think it was Columbia River Yacht Club that could have come down. It looked like their party barge that was parked over there, or moored over there.
Yeah.
They cleaned up after themselves. Wow. There was absolutely nothing there to pick up. And in the past, there's just been a lot of litter and stuff left behind. But kudos to the yacht club people, and whatever we've done to make that happen with signage, and it's working. And I'm eagerly anticipating our attorneys getting that settlement going with Brad down at the Mortgage to work through that for next year, next camping season. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, I don't have much. I just the city county dinner was excellent. I think getting out there and networking and realizing Columbia County as a whole, I think the citizens should be encouraged that we are working together as a cohesive bunch through the Port Commission, multiple cities. We're all moving Columbia County as a whole forward, and it's really encouraging for St. Helens too, with everything that we have going on with the waterfront redevelopment, to the St. Helens Industrial Park, to the urban renewal. The waterfront, I would love to get Dwight here sooner than later, because that is going to be a huge project, and I'm kind of concerned with some people thinking that we haven't done a bunch of outreach on it, because we have. I've been to those meetings at the Meriwether Place, and that all of a sudden you're wanting to turn it into an industrial park again, and I'm just blown away by how far off track sometimes some of our citizens can get. So I think we need to really, I would have to agree with Doug. I think maybe every quarter we do a meet the council, take one from the chief over there. Maybe we just do that, Doug. I don't know about the work sessions getting changed, because man, we'd be here till, and not that I would complain, we'd be here till 1:30 in the morning.
We would.
We really would be, with all the public hearings and everything else. 1:30 in the morning. But maybe we do meet the council or bring your questions and concerns to the council every quarter. You know, I think that would be a great idea. So, yeah, I just am encouraged by the direction that we are going and that Columbia County is going. So, you know, kudos to the administration too. You know, I oversee administration, and they're doing a wonderful job, and have continued to do a wonderful job in moving this city forward. And they have, we as a council, we have a vision for St. Helens, and it's got a bunch of work already done to it, and we're continuing to do the work. The Cool People meeting's coming up, the Riverfront Connector Loop, I think #2 meeting on that. So on Tuesday. Tuesday.
I don't think I am.
So, yeah, you know, and thank you to the Lady Lions for showing up and giving me a shirt. That's pretty dang cool, you know. So that's all I got.
Could be right.
Anybody got any last thing
No, Ginny.
before I close? Okay, we're adjourned.
You're on that, right?
It's a planning commission thing.
Yeah.